Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Well, tonight is the beginning of the first week of high school football action here in Florida. But in Georgia, they started last week, so this would be week number 2. And if you watch sports on ESPN or wherever else, you would seen last night that they had an epic matchup last night in Alabama. Perennial power out of the Atlanta area, Grayson, traveled southwest down to Alabama to take on Thompson High, another perennial power in the state of Alabama. Just to give you an example of how hot Thompson is, in the last 5 years, they won 4 straight championships, and last year, the 5th year, they ended up getting knocked off in the last minute. So you got a team that's won 4 out of the last 5 state championships. They got talent coming in from everywhere, and they're loaded to bear. But last night, I think Grayson just happened to be a little bit better football team than what Thompson was. Thompson couldn't move the football. And Grayson, well, we'll get to Grayson in a second, but Thompson, they had a good defense. And the defense was the only reason why they stayed in this game. Matter of fact, the only score they got during regulation was a tackle that resulted in a fumble and a scoop and score. That's the only way that Thompson scored all night. But the game went into overtime. Thompson, the home team, they get the ball first, and in high school, it's the greatest thing in the world. They put that thing down on the 10-yard line. You got 4 downs to do something. And they scored on the first play. Play action pass, hit the guy on a little quick slant there, wide open right between the slot. Kick the extra point. Grayson get the ball, and they do the same thing everybody else do. They spread it out, and they do a little handoff, and they finally get it down to the 4-yard line the first play. Second play, they lost a yard. Third down, they're going to come with the Wildcat. Well, I take that back. On third down, they throw a little slip screen out to the side and they score a touchdown, right? Well, now you're down by a point. So what do, coach? You're about 3 hours away from home, and it's 11 o'clock at night. You want to play into the night, or you want to try to win this game? Well, Grayson did what I thought they would do. They would go for 2. So they lined up in a Wildcat formation, and they ran the football, and they got in. Knocked off Thompson on their own field. But the other reason I want to talk about this particular game is because of what I saw from Grayson, their quarterback. In high school, you don't have the greatest decision-making between quarterbacks. As much as they try to make it seem like all these guys are just polished and ready to bear for college, that is not the case at all. A lot of times in high school, you're playing against teams that can't keep up with you. So even when you're making a whole lot of mistakes on a single play, it looks like you're doing all the things right because the other team just can't keep up with you. Well, I noticed last night with Grayson, especially at the end of the game there, the quarterback, he seems to be locked in onto a certain area or a certain player, not realizing that they got people wide open. For instance, in the last couple of minutes, Grayson's trying to go down and try to score right before regulation, and they ran 2 passing plays. The first passing play, he threw it in there, and the guys like double and triple coverage. But the back, he came straight up the A-gap, and nobody covered him. Okay, no problem. So it's 4th down, right? Well, this time you take the back and you slip him out to the flat. The receivers are double covered. The back is still wide open, but he's not focused on what is open or scanning the field to see what is open. He's looking down the field to see if he can make the big play. Lucky for them, they got a pass interference, but if he just opened his eyes up, he's got a running back in the flat, wide open. So I don't know if any coach in the box saw that. They didn't see it on 3rd down. Otherwise, they would have told him to throw it to the back on 4th down. So they're not paying attention. The quarterback's not paying attention. And it just lets you know that everything is all packaged in a box. We're all going to do the same thing. We all think the same, but we're not all trying to advance our players. You want to get that until you go to the next level. You have to do that on the next level or you can't survive. But what I saw last night was a little troubling to me. But because Grayson is so loaded, they're going to get away with a lot of that. But when a game like what you had last night against Thompson, that could have been critical. Now, the final reason I brought that up is I want to transfer that conversation to what we saw last night between the Colts and the Bengals. Anthony Richardson, the second-year player for the Colts. He's coming back off injury. He only played a handful of games last year, so we really don't know much about this guy. Well, I read a troubling report last night out of the Bengals camp, because if you don't know, when they have these preseason games, these teams actually practice against each other before they hit the field. So this is just a combination of things, and it culminates into an exhibition game in the end. Well, the Bengals players, they were taking shots at Richardson. They basically saying all he wants to do is run. He's almost like he's afraid to throw. And when he does throw, he's throwing to a spot, or he's trying to lock in and put it into a certain area. In other words, he's not reading the defense. That's basically the same thing I saw from the Grayson quarterback last night down the stretch. And sure enough, he gets into the game. They take him right down the field, and they score. But he did a lot of running, and when he did run, he threw a little rinky-dink 5-yard pass. The touchdown pass that they scored was like 9 yards, but it was a little 5-yard square in route coming from the other side, a drag. They scored that way. So what I'm seeing, not only is what the Bengals players saying has a whole lot of truth to it, but I'm seeing a lot of similarities with Richardson with Lamar Jackson. You got to have a running game. The Ravens have a running game. If the Colts can't run the football, those little 5-yard little out patterns that they're running, nothing too threatening, but that's what Jackson is doing. He's running. He's got a running game, and he's throwing little 5-10-yard out routes to the tight end. Nothing extravagant about that. So when you think about that, and you think about what you saw with Grayson, it's not a whole lot of difference between what these modern age quarterbacks are doing. The point is, when the game is on the line, can these guys get it done? Grayson quarterback couldn't get it done. Anthony Richardson is not ready to get it done. We haven't seen Lamar Jackson get it done. Now, am I saying should we go back to the traditional drop back quarterback? Absolutely not. But I am saying if you're going to pay all these quarterbacks these extreme sums of money, at least know if they can throw the football down the field when you need them the most. This high school guy, he's not under that scrutiny right now unless he's getting a whole lot of NIL money, because, you know, they approved that last October in Georgia. So that's possible. But these pro quarterbacks making these millions of dollars a year, and you can't throw the football? Come on, man. Why would you value a guy like that and not value a running back like a Saquon Barkley? You know, pay the running back, pay the man. And if you're going to pay the quarterback, fine. Just make sure you get one that can play. But what they're saying about Richardson is very troubling. I'm kind of not surprised about it because I saw the way he struggled at Florida, and I just could not believe that he would be drafted in the first round. Yes, I know they drafted him on his athletic prowess and what he looks like, and he's getting paid, and I am happy that the fact that he's getting paid. But now that he's getting paid, now he's got to go out there and prove it. And based on what those Bengals players are saying, based on what he's putting out there on tape, I don't see any time in the future that he's going to improve. But the good thing about him, he's got the time to do it. But he better hurry up and do something, because they will turn on him, and they will turn to somebody else. Justin Fields, they turned on him in Chicago. They might turn on him in Pittsburgh. As a matter of fact, he could be just like Jamarcus Russell and be out the league. Anything can happen. So if you're going to get in there, get paid, great, but make sure you can play the game. These guys need to learn how to throw the football, and that's all I want to see. This is Sports for Real.